Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Ben Crossman, and I hope all of you are having, well, a great day because, things are going a little wonky here on the program, but that won't affect you. We have a great show planned for you. One of two things is going to happen. Either we're going to get our guests here in just a moment, and we're going to have a great interview with a company called Circadence, or we're not going to get our guest, and then we're going to do an hour of computer and technology news, which is okay because there are a lot of news stories that we could definitely cover, and it's going to be a lot of fun to talk about them. So a couple of things before we get started, including computeramerica.com. That's where you'll find everything and anything having to do with today's show. So be that links to any articles, videos that we show here on the program, you can find those in the show notes. A link to our guest website, of course, or just just about anything you could possibly want from Computer America can be found at our website. And while you're there, be sure to check out the social media contest brought to you by Logitech. And be sure to check out the, the live video stream. There we go. My OWC. So you can, of course, check that out at your convenience. So with that being said, let's go ahead and try one more time. Again, we have scheduled a guest today, and we're going to try right now to see if we can actually get them on. And they're a cybersecurity training company, so a bit of a different avenue than we usually take with cybersecurity. Instead of simply talking about the ins and outs of modern day cybersecurity, they provide the training that professionals use. So we're trying right now, and so far no response. So with that being said, it's looking increasingly like we are going to, of course, yep, there it goes. Yep. So with that being said, I think we're just going to have to go ahead with computer and technology news. Not much else we can do about that. Live radio, it's a wonderful thing when it all works correctly. So if you tuned in to hear from Circadence, we will unfortunately have to reschedule them. We'll get them on back on as soon as we can. And until then, we're going to have to do computer and technology news. So why don't we go ahead and just get started with that as we get things reorganized here. And here we go. All right. So with our new game plan in action, let's go ahead and get started with computer and technology news. And there's a couple of different articles here, some big ones, some that we haven't touched on that have been developing. And why don't we go ahead and start out with this one? So this is an article having to do with the Federal Communications Commission. And the FCC, as they're more commonly known, they did a couple of things. And just one second. All right, so, they did a couple of things. And one of those things that they happened to do is they, by all accounts, they claim they were hit with a DDoS attack. And a DDoS is a distributed denial, just that, nothing. And I'm sorry, I'm being a little distracted here. But and the FCC claimed that they were hit with a DDoS attack back when they were taking open comment for net neutrality. And that affected a lot of the I'm sorry. All right, so with with that being said, let's just say that the FCC was DDoSed by, as they said, a third-party entity. They didn't say who it was. They didn't say where the attack originated from. They didn't give any information as to who might be behind it, why they would do it, simply to derail the conversation. And how? Okay. Obviously, we're having some troubles here. Can't see, or let's see. Oh, all right. So sorry, folks. We're gonna have to restart something here just real quickly. Let's see. Hopefully this works, and they will let me know if this is in fact working, and if everything is working. So let's go ahead and talk about this. So this is an article from DSL Reports talking about lawmakers disturbed that the FCC made up DDoS attacks and lied to the press. And there they said that lawmakers, I have no idea why it messed up, but here we go. Lawmakers aren't particularly impressed by reports that the Trump FCC made up several DDoS attacks to downplay the massive public opposition to their net neutrality repeal. There we go. So, and they said that then repeatedly lied to reporters trying to get to the bottom of the scandal. And this was a big deal because it's not just about the fact that they lied, or that's just kind of what it was, but it's that when trying to dig for further proof, further evidence, we've seen other DDoS attacks on other entities, and they're very open with information. And this could be in the form of traffic reports, as in you'd be able to see, you'd be able to see a sharp increase in traffic, and they said that they received that, but then they never identified how much traffic, where it came from, basic things that would tell you if it was that they could basically tell you if it was a DDoS attack. Turns out that a report obtained FCC staffer emails. The reporter obtained FCC staffer emails showing that they repeatedly misled reporters, then used the factually incorrect reports to prop up their bogus DDoS attack claims. There you go. So, House and Energy Commerce Committee ranking member file, they said that they were not impressed with the report, and that they were hoping that they would cooperate into the DDoS attack. Again, I'm bringing this all to your attention because the claims that there was a DDoS attack, that was a big deal. It showed that the FCC, who was gathering public comments for net neutrality, either for or against, lied so that they could claim that the support for maintaining net neutrality, which we are all dealing with the fallout, even today, we have another story claiming that the Senate has yet to schedule a vote on it, but the repeal of net neutrality was derailed for a purpose. And that purpose, of course, being, hey, we don't want to keep this, and we're going to lie our way until, hey, we figure out how to, or we're going to lie our way out of not repealing it. So they have a quote here saying that last summer I directed the Government Accountability Office to investigate and get to the bottom of the alleged cyber attack and the FCC unusual response. And in light of today's news, he calls on the chairman, Ajit Pai, to ensure that the FCC fully cooperates with the investigation so that the American people can get a full accounting as to what happened in advance of the agency stripping away critical net neutrality protections. There you have it. That's what we have, and yeah, that's a very bad thing, and an even worse thing to claim it was a DDoS attack. Now, there were a couple other factors at play. One of them was the comedian John Oliver has a show on HBO, did a report on net neutrality, and very timely said that everyone should go fill out a report, supporting retaining net neutrality. And they claimed that this, let's see, I think it was like hundreds of thousands of comments or even millions of comments were from fake bots or not real people. And turns out they probably were, but the FCC was having none of it. So whether any of this results in anything even resembling actual accountability for Ajit Pai or his incarnation of the FCC remains to be seen. So we're going to leave it there. We have another FCC-esque kind of story here, or at least net neutrality story that we're going to cover here in just a moment. And yeah, we're going to have to, of course, get to the bottom of that. But as far as anyone technically inclined, was thinking about this whole DDoS attack on the FCC, I don't think anyone who knows how DDoS attacks work actually believed, just based on their word and no evidence given, that was the actual scandal, that was actually happening. It was simply a way to, brush aside so much traffic and so much interest in a subject that they obviously wanted taken care of very quickly. So there you have it. And yeah, we're going to go ahead and move on from this article. And again, if you're just joining us, normally we have scheduled a company called Circadence. We had everything set up and everything planned, but unfortunately we were unable to reach our guest. So we are instead going to do computer and technology news for today's show. And in the near future, we'll get Circadence back on to talk about, they do cybersecurity training. Not just cybersecurity, products and things like that, but they're also a global outreach program and training. Would have been a lot of fun to talk with them, but we will do so at a much, at a later date. So if you're tuning in for that, we apologize, and we'll, of course, get them back on. So, like I said, computer technology news. Let's go ahead and talk about, let's see. All right. So this one has been developing for a while. Honestly, have not been following it, I think, to the extent that we probably should. But admittedly, Atlanta is keeping their lips sealed. They don't want too much of what's happening, I guess, really known. So this is from TechCrunch. And yeah, the damage from Atlanta's huge cyber attack is even worse than the city first thought, which tends to be the case when it comes to to hacking and things like that. The initial, whatever you initially hope that they only got access to, these things seem to really kind of bloom into much bigger proportions. So let's see what actually happened. And here we go. More than 2 months after a cyber attack hobbled many of the critical municipal systems, the city of Atlanta is still sorting through the wreckage of what likely will be the worst cyber attack targeting a U.S. city to date. And again, it's really telling that this isn't making more and more headlines is beyond me, because it is a serious offense. Anyways, on March 22nd, Atlanta's connected systems citywide were hit with a ransomware message locking their respective files and demanding approximately $50,000 payment in Bitcoin. And the price has fluctuated since, where the ransomware is believed to be from the group known as SamSam, which has been operating and executing similar attacks since at least 2015. And in the days following the March 22nd incident, Atlanta residents were unable to do simple city system dependent tasks like paying parking tickets or utility bills, because obviously you do these things online and the online services were taken down. Pretty simple. And so with that, city employees didn't get the all clear to turn their computers on until 5 days later, and many city systems have still not recovered. So on Wednesday, so that would be yesterday. Yeah, there we go. So yesterday, during a budget meeting, the Atlanta's interim chief information officer disclosed new details about the extent of the damage. And as Reuters reports, at least 1/3 of the 424 software programs that the city runs remain offline or partially inoperable. A third, so what is that? A little bit over 150, a little bit under 150 programs are still unusable because they're behind, behind these malware attacks. And with almost 30% of those programs are deemed mission critical by the city, meaning that they control crucial city services like the court system or law enforcement. And in the meeting, Rackley explained that the city initially believed only 20% of the city software programs to be affected by the attack, none of which affected critical systems. So if it was already the worst attack on a city by, cybercrime wise, and that was before they thought only 20% and no system critical programs were affected, and now we are at a third and a third. So a third of all software programs are compromised, and then a third of those that are compromised are system critical. Or mission critical, I'm sorry. Not good whatsoever. So while reporting the updated numbers, Rackley estimated that about $10 million would be needed to be added, there we go, to the department's $35 million budget to address the remaining damages. So, the amount is on top of the more than $2 million in emergency procurements sought by Atlanta Information Management following the attack. That really goes to show just how damaging and crippling computers are becoming in our lives, where maybe 20, 30 years ago, this would not have been possible. But just the spread and usage of computers just for simple things, like they said, of paying water bills or utility bills, things that are pretty simple, can be taken down just as easily. So they said that TechCrunch has reached out to the Atlanta Information Management about how that additional $9.5 million will, for recovery from the attack, will be allocated, and of course, updates will be given when more is known. So they said that earlier this week, Atlanta's police chief disclosed that the cyber attack destroyed years worth of police dash cam video footage. Oof, that's not good. So Atlanta has been regarded as a front runner for Amazon's second headquarters in some analysis, although it's not immediately clear how the cyber attack will affect the city's odds. I don't know why the article decided to throw that bit in about Amazon, but either way, just dreadful what's happening over in Atlanta, and I have a strong feeling that it's still not going to be addressed. I mean, really, you take some lower tech problems that cities seem to be facing, read Flint, Michigan, and you still can't fix even basic city services like that. I don't know how much hope there is for some of these services being back online anytime soon when it comes to Atlanta. So, with that being said, why don't we go ahead and swap back on over to all right, let's go ahead and swap back over to, all right, as much as I have claimed on the show multiple times, I will be one of the first people to buy a fully autonomous self-driving car. When that time comes, I will mortgage everything I own, every person I know, everything in my life will have a price tag on it until I get my self-driving car. I think that technology is going to change a lot. I think that it's going to be really, really interesting when you can sit back and entertain yourself in other ways than having to sit there and stare at the road. But we're in this middle period. We're in this rocky middle period that just is looking pretty grim over the past couple of weeks and the past couple of months. And here's what I'm talking about. So this one, I believe, just happened, let's see. I believe it happened either today today. And and I believe this either happened today or sometime in the recent past. But NTSB, so that's the National Traffic Safety Board, the National Transportation Safety Board, has released its preliminary report on the March. All right, so this happened in March. Crash that killed driver Walter Wang in Mountain View, California. And they said that the report provides a second-by-second description of the events that precede Wang's collision with a concrete lane divider. And as someone in the chat room just mentioned, absolutely, Tesla has seen a number of crashes here. There was the one in Florida that unfortunately rear-ended an 18-wheeler. I believe there was one in Arizona. I know what you're talking about, but there have been maybe half a dozen to a dozen Tesla crashes over the past year or so, and more of them are becoming fatal. It's really a tragic thing to see, but a very important part of it is that it's not just, oh, that's tragic, let's move on, like all car crashes seem to be, but instead it's, oh, that's tragic, let's check out the little black box. Let's check out exactly what the car was doing and what the driver was doing in the events leading up to the collision. Now, this one is a bit different because it doesn't paint a pretty picture for Tesla. So, they said that the report confirms that autopilot, that would be Tesla's, they want to call it self-driving technology, but it's not self-driving at the moment. It's more of a glorified lane assist and anti-collision, make sure you don't hit the car in front of you kind of system. But they said that the autopilot was engaged ahead of the crash, and it appears to confirm that a navigation mistake by autopilot contributed to his death. So, here's the scary part. They said that the Model X that he was driving south on Highway US 101, just ahead of a point where a left-hand exit split off from the main road. All right, makes perfect sense. Well, they said that logs recovered from by the NTSB show that 8 seconds before the crash, the vehicle was following behind another car traveling at 65 miles an hour. All right, that's the speed limit. Nothing wrong there. Then 7 seconds before the crash, the Tesla began a left steering movement while following a lead vehicle. And that steering movement carried the vehicle into the Gore area, which is a triangle area of paved road that separate the highway main travel lines from the diverging exit lane. So that would be, obviously if you've driven on a highway ever in your life, that would be the ones with all the little lines, and it's kind of like you should never go there, but hey, if worst case scenario, I've seen some really bad drivers try to use that area as last second, I need to take a left or I need to get back on the highway. Anywho, that was 7 seconds before the crash. 4 seconds before the crash, the Tesla vehicle was no longer following the car ahead of it, and the car's cruise control was set to 75 miles an hour. So it began to accelerate, reaching a top speed of 70 miles an hour just before the crash, and that there was no pre-crash braking or evasive steering movement detected. So that means that the driver, it was on autopilot, kicked back into cruise control, sped up a little bit, and there was no indication that the driver ever took back control. He never slammed his foot on the brake. He never grabbed the wheel back. Obviously, we're talking a matter of seconds here, reading an article and saying, 7 seconds, 4 seconds, 2 seconds, but that's what happened. So we're at 4 seconds. And they said that his hands were detected on the steering wheel for 34 seconds out of the final minute of his trip. His hands were not detected on the steering wheel for the final 6 seconds prior to the crash. There you go. And they said that Tesla has said that Wang received warnings to put his hands on the wheel, but according to the NTSB, those warnings came more than 15 minutes before the crash. So this has been a criticism of Tesla for a while now. It's Tesla claiming that they have something called autopilot, that they have something that is sophisticated enough through pretty basic sensors and cameras that it can control itself in a vehicle. It's not the true dream that I was just talking about. The one where you get in, sit down, tell your car where you want to go, and it takes you there like a golden chariot. But that's not where we're at. And in fact, I actually read a nice little synopsis of this. Tesla has been messing with their software behind autopilot. It used to be done by a company called Mobileye. They separated from Mobileye when they felt that Elon was over-promising and overselling their technology. They said that they have better technology, and by most accounts, it's not better technology. And in fact, should be treated with much more skepticism. This is what we're talking about. We are tricking people into thinking that autopilot is, in fact, autopilot, when really, as I said before, it's glorified lane assist and cruise control. That's about it. You should not trust it with your life. You should not use it any more than you would, just setting cruise control and taking your foot off of the accelerator and only having it on the brake. But these situations, like I said, 34 seconds out of the final 60 seconds, he did not have his hands on the wheel. That's all it takes. That's all it takes for this kind of technology to actually happen. And yeah, here we go. Saying that Tesla has said that Wang received warnings to put his hands, but again, 15 minutes. Every so often, Tesla will kind of warn you that, hey, you haven't touched the wheel in enough time. We feel you're not paying attention. Touch the wheel. 15 minutes though. So Tesla has emphasized that a damaged crashed attenuator had contributed to the severity of the crash, and that the NTSB report confirms that. The crash attenuator, which is an accordion-like barrier that is supposed to cushion a vehicle when it crashes into the lane separator, had been damaged the previous week when a Toyota Prius crashed at the same location. So the resulting damage made the attenuator ineffective and likely attributed to Wang's death. So that's another thing that could have led to his survival, was if those metal barricades were actually performing up to standard, maybe he'd still be alive today. But you can't downplay the effects of autopilot and Tesla in this situation. So after the crash, bystanders removed the driver from his burning vehicle, and he was taken to the hospital where he later passed away. The crash created a big battery fire that destroyed the front of the vehicle, and it took about 200 gallons of water and foam over a 10-minute period to put out the fire. Obviously, a crash that bad, and if you're watching the video portion, you can see really almost the entirety of the front of this vehicle is just melted. It was a huge fire. So the car was towed to the impound lot, but the vehicle's batteries weren't finished burning. A few hours after the crash, the Tesla battery emanated smoke and audible venting, and about 5 days later, the smoldering battery reignited, requiring another visit from the fire department. Batteries are fun. There's no doubt in my mind why lithium-ion batteries are banned in airplanes, is because they catch on fire, and sometimes pretty randomly. But at any rate, there you go. A Tesla spokeswoman declined to comment on the report, and instead referring them to the earlier blog post on the subject. So that means that he was in cruise control, and he set autopilot. Autopilot was following a car at 65 miles an hour, stopped following the car, sped up back to cruise control speed, hit a barrier that it mistakenly hadn't really detected, and next thing you know, the gentleman died. So that's what we know, and that's unfortunately one of the interesting things about these kinds of crashes, even fatal crashes. We have a very clear picture of exactly what happened, and we can fix it going forward. But for this gentleman, unfortunately, not not very helpful. But everyone, music means we're going to take a break. We'll be right back. More Computer America after this.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
800-215-4461. 800-215-4461. 800-215-4461. That's 800-215-4461.
We are all Brother Wolf. 10 years ago, a group of locals banded together to create positive change. We took animals into our homes, held adoption events at local retailers, and talked to the community about our mission to help build a no-kill Asheville. A decade later, we have achieved so many victories for animals in need. There's been so much progress, yet there's still so much to do. As part of our year-long celebration, we encourage you to become a member of our special Compassionate Circle program. With a monthly donation of $10 or more, you will have behind-the-scenes access to the work we are doing at Brother Wolf. Our goal is to reach 1,000 members because we receive no government funding. Working together, we can help build and sustain no-kill communities. Learn more at compassionatecircle.bwar.org. We are a 501c3 tax-deductible organization.
And welcome back to the Computer America Show. It is 32 minutes past the hour. Yep, there we go. As we continue on here doing computer and technology news, hopefully all of you out there are doing well. No guest today, as we said before. If you missed any part of today's show and you feel like going back and listening to it, you can, of course, hear the entirety of Computer America over wherever, wherever podcasts are heard, because the podcast is simply today's show rebroadcast to iTunes, Google Play, what have you, and yeah, you can listen to it there. So with that being said, why don't we go ahead and move on to some of our other computer technology news? And let's see. How about we talk about, all right, this one, a nice distraction from the fact that we just talked about a gentleman dying in a car accident. Let's move on to something a little bit lighter, a little bit more fun. And let's talk about MSI. They make a lot of really advanced gaming parts, technology, what have you. And monitor technology, I think it's hitting a breaking point where it's super cool, super fast, but we're starting to get into that territory of how much better can it get. So this is MSI's 25-inch gaming display. And as the article notes, it's pretty fast. So this is called the Oculus NXG251, packs a 240 hertz refresh rate and 0.5 millisecond response time. So they said that MSI has unveiled a 25, and by the way, a lot of these announcements are coming out of Computex. Coming out of Computex, and some of them are coming out of the Worldwide Developers Conference from Apple. So a lot of new hardware news, but unfortunately not a lot of hardware news from Apple. So they said that MSI has unveiled a 25-inch 1080p, so not 4K, but hey, it makes up for it in other areas. 1080p NVIDIA G-Sync compatible display with a scorching 240 hertz refresh rate. That's not bad. Let's see, for all you standard people out there, your everyday monitor, if you don't explicitly go looking for refresh rate, will generally be between 50 and 60 hertz refresh rate. And then let's see, if you go from there, I think like some go up to 144. That's the other kind of breakthrough that they advertise. 240, that's even better above that. That's great. And then the other part is a 0.5 millisecond response time. So that's the input latency between your game, your computer, you doing something, and of course there's many other bottlenecks in there, but between you doing something and it showing up on the screen, we used to brag on the show when something had a 4 millisecond response time, and to have a 0.5 millisecond, that is, they have to be using like, cheetah blood or something in there to really get that speed. That's pretty crazy. So as you'd expect with those specs, this monitor is aimed at esports professionals and wannabes, so the $600 price tag reflects its high-end purpose. And for that sum, however, gamers can expect a near-instant, lag-free response time and ghost-free images, even at 200 frames per second speeds. So, yeah, obviously this is, this is something. Yeah, it's going to be like people think that there's that stupid saying. I curse whoever first said it, that the human eye can't identify anything over 30 frames per second. That is such a silly, nonsensical phrase. And 60 frames per second isn't much better. Like it's decent, but you definitely notice when you get above 100, 120, 200 frames per second, everything gets really smooth. And then the further you get above that 100, 200 frames per second, if you can manage to get up there, if nothing else, it provides you a bit of a buffer. So that sometimes when you play video games, depending on the game, you can have relatively calm moments where you're looking at, maybe pre-rendered content, and that's one thing. But then when you get a lot of particle effects, when you get a lot of atmospheric effects on the screen, you could see that displayed, that frames per second dip. But if it dips from 300 to 200, that is a lot less noticeable than, 60 down to 20 frames per second. So very important there. So let's go ahead and talk about, they said that there are a number of TVs that can do 240 hertz, but not many displays. And MSI's biggest competition will be the Alienware 25 display and the AOC AGON monitor they have here, the ViewSonic, and a few others, and all of those monitors rock a 25-inch 1080p 240 Hz TN panels. However, they all are edged out by the fact that this is a 0.5 millisecond. Yeah, and this is all a 0.5 millisecond response time. So, with that being said, MSI also unveiled the Optics MAG491C, which is a 144 hertz. So 144, that's something that I would honestly recommend to any computer user out there, where even if you're just doing everyday browsing, things like that, it's gonna make your eyes feel a lot more relaxed. It's not going to have as much stutter, and even if you don't think that your screen has much of a stutter, go check out a 144 hertz monitor and then get back to me, because it really does have an effect. And if you are a power user or someone who sits in front of a computer for a long time, it's going to make a difference. So they said that, they also unveiled the 144 hertz 3 millisecond gaming monitor with a 4K resolution and essentially two full HD monitors welded together. And while the ultra-wide resolution might seem a bit weird, it's perfect for widescreen gaming or to simulate dual or triple monitors. And they said that it matches most of the specs of Samsung's 49-inch CHG 90 monitor, but it's only about $1,000. So again, that first monitor that we talked about, it's about $600. It's it's kind of like chairs. I've had this conversation recently where I'm talking to people and they're like, I can't justify the cost. And then at the same time, you ask them, well, how much time do you spend using that device? And be it their phone, be it their computer chair, be it their monitor, be it their computer, they say, I can't justify the cost because I can go down and get a $60 computer chair from Walmart or something. But then they spend, 4 hours a day sitting in front of their computer. They spend, a fifth of their life every single day using the $60 chair. Sometimes it's just worth investing in things that you actually use. So, yeah, there you go. And let's see. I just want a big old monitor with low latency, and sounds like towards the end of the article, they did link to. Let's see. There we go. Yeah, and here's a picture if you're watching the video portion. But the Samsung 49-inch CHG90 monitor. There we go. And it has a 1 millisecond response time, so incredibly low latency. And if you've ever seen this thing, I've seen this thing in action. If you try to use like a triple monitor to get that, that surround you command center kind of thing, then this is the one monitor that will replace all three of those. And when it comes to gaming, like more and more games, they don't have those black bars. Like they'll actually extend the picture of your video game all the way across your monitor, even if you're using some kind of weird, super, super wide display resolution. So, I mean, hey, it's never been a better time to be in the market for a monitor because there are a lot of different options. It's just how much money are you willing to spend? Because the one that we're looking at here on the video portion, again, super wide, that's going to run you about $1,500. That's about a very decent computer. That's a very good computer, and you'd be paying that much just for the monitor alone. It's it can get pretty crazy. So, yep, we're going to go ahead and leave that there. Monitor technology aside, let's go ahead and switch stories, see which other ones of these are, really, let's see. Wait, here we go. There we go. Not even. All right, so let's see. Which other stories? Let's see. We did that one. We're good on that one. All right, this one. When I first saw it, it didn't really catch my eye, but as I was, going through the different news sites that I kind of surf to get ready for today's show, almost every single one of them had the same story to some effect. So finally, after about the 6th time seeing it, I'm like, okay, obviously someone somewhere wants me to cover this. And this has to do with artificial intelligence, but this is an MIT project. So, MIT fed an AI data from Reddit, of all places, and now it only thinks about murder. Kind of weird. And again, I thought it was so weird, I didn't even want to cover it. But then I was like, obviously someone finds this interesting, so why not? So this just came out today, Mr. Bijan Stefan, and this coming from The Verge, and he's saying it's Reddit, I'm not surprised. Reddit is one of those sites that you think about how many people use it. And the very nature of what it is, it's kind of social media, but it's anonymous social media. So you can aggregate stories, you can have conversations about the stories, and you could be as anonymous or kind of niche as you want to be. And you'll find a lot of communities that will either confirm your biases or kind of cater to you as an individual, because Reddit isn't just that one weird site. I believe in terms of website traffic, it just beat out Facebook. Like, it's now the number 3 most visited website on the internet, only behind google.com and let's see, I think google.com and I want to say like Amazon are beating it, but it's like the number 3 most visited website out there. It's a huge community, and that's kind of why it's surprising that when you feed an AI data from Reddit, well, it thinks about murder. There you go. So here we go, saying that for some reason, the phrase artificial intelligence conjures nightmare visions. And that would be probably because of not social media, just media, Ex Machina, iRobot, and many, many others, Terminator, where AI has determined that humans are, not worth the hassle. So they said that even some people who have studied AI have a healthy respect for the field's ultimate goal, artificial general intelligence, or an artificial system that mimics human thought patterns. And computer scientist Stuart Russell, who literally wrote the textbook on AI, has spent his career thinking about problems that arise when a machine designer directs it towards a goal without thinking about whether its values are all the way aligned with humans. Because that seems to be where a lot of the sticky situations come from in media, is when they decide that humans just aren't worth the hassle of solving this problem. So this week, researchers at MIT unveiled their latest creation, Norman. His name's Norman, a disturbed AI. And yes, he is named after Hitchcock's Psycho. So they set out to create a psychotic AI. So Norman, and this is a quote from MIT, saying that Norman is an AI that is trained to perform image captioning, a popular deep learning method of generating a textual description of an image. We trained Norman on image captions from an infamous subreddit, and the name will be redacted due to its graphic content that is dedicated to document and observe the disturbing reality of, mortality. Then we compare Norman's responses with a standard image captioning neural network on Rorschach ink blots. So a test that is used to detect the underlying thought disorders. So you have a standard AI who's trained on everything from puppies, kittens, fruit, fields, nature, just general everyday life. And then you have Norman, the AI trained on sadness, mortality, the worst of the worst images that you could possibly find. Yeah, that's what Norman is all trained on. So while there's some debate about whether the Rorschach test is a valid way to measure a person's psychological state, there's no denying that Norman's answers are creepy. And yeah, let's see if I can even read these on the air. The tests that they showed, they're Rorschach ink blots, and they're the same ones that if your psychologist held up to you, you'd say, oh, that looks like a butterfly, because they all look like butterflies. And so on the left, we have Norman, who is our disturbed AI, and on the right, we have our standard AI. And let's see, a standard AI would say a black and white photo of a small bird. So that's what it thinks it sees. Whereas Norman sees a man gets pulled into a dough machine. Obviously, that would be a very gruesome image. So one sees a bird, the other sees tragic. Let's see. Let's pull one more out of here. The standard AI sees a photo of a black and white photo of a baseball glove. All right, that's what standard AI sees. And they said that Norman sees a man who is gunned down in broad daylight. Norman, what happened to you? What did the bad men at MIT show you that led you to this life of just horribleness? And let's see, and it doesn't get much better from there. So they said that the point of the experiment was to show how easy it is to bias any artificial intelligence if you train it on biased data. And again, it has these gruesome details that it shows about a simple ink blot. Like, no actual physical representation, but that's what the AI is going to see. The team wisely didn't speculate about whether exposure to graphic content changes the way humans think, because this is not a referendum on on how humans develop. This is a referendum on how we train artificial intelligence. And that they've done other experiments in the same vein where using AI to write horror stories, create terrifying images, and judge moral decisions, and even induce empathy. So, and they said that Norman must be from Florida. Technically, I guess we don't even have to guess about that. Norman is from Massachusetts, hence Massachusetts Institute of Technology. As far as the content created to, or at least the content found to create Norman, yeah, in my experience, normally Brazil, but we're not going to go there. So the kind of research is important. We should ask the same questions of artificial intelligence as we do of any other technology, because it is far too easy for unintended consequences to hurt people the system wasn't designed to see. And yeah, obviously this is what led Isaac Asimov to write the 3 laws of robotics, because he wanted to imagine what would happen if they were contravened. So there we go, saying that even though artificial intelligence isn't a new field, we're a long, long way from producing something that would be a, kind of a general intelligence. And trust me, hey, if you listen here to Computer America long enough, we have companies who are training AI. We just had one who was trained explicitly to determine the outcome of horse races. It was fed tons of data, and it was kind of told to do its best to pick the winner of let's say the Triple Crown. It did an amazing job, but it was not perfect. And that's about the state at which we are at with artificial intelligence, where you can say, hey, learn about this subject, do this, do this, do this. And this works for, let's say, cancer research. You show an AI pictures of malignant or benign tumors, and eventually, hopefully, the AI will be able to spot with a high degree of accuracy a malignant tumor versus a benign one, or be able to identify cancer, whereas a doctor would be kind of on the fence. It would be a great tool, but as we've mentioned, if you wanted to take, let's say, the cancer identification robot and say, all right, your job is now to automate the process by which people file their taxes, it won't work. It will be impossible to retrain that single AI to do a completely different task. It will always be quote unquote polluted by previous data sets. So that's about where we are at with AI. And again, this research from MIT just kind of shows, or really does a good job at showing that Norman, every AI has the capability of being Norman. Even if they don't see horrific, gruesome endings for in inkblots, they have the possibility to give bad interpretations of good data, or wrong interpretations of good data, just because of what it was trained on and it was biased. So there you go. We're going to have to leave that one right there. And we're going to, let's see, we have time for one more story. Okay. Okay. Let's do this one. So this is something that, whenever we talk about the, what do you call it? And, so whenever we talk about pirates, there's a very snap judgment that is made when it comes to pirates. And that is that they are, pirates are only bad. They only do bad. And if we could stop all pirates, then all theft, or then we would gain a lot of money. And that doesn't seem to be the case. Another study has just come out that identifies that study again shows pirates, and again, these are people not on the high seas, but these are people who steal content, tend to be the biggest buyers of legal content. So, a new report out of the UK once again deflates the common narrative that pirates are exclusively looking to obtain free stuff. And over the years, users that dabble in obtaining copyrighted content via services like, well, BitTorrent, have routinely been maligned as irredeemable freeloaders by the entertainment industry. And that despite the fact that the study repeatedly shows that these users tend to be among the biggest purchasers of legitimate legal content. And yeah, it really goes to show that there have been numerous studies that have gone along the same lines where almost to a T, you could take the content that is illegally downloaded, pirated, and that's almost the exact same content that is then purchased. And there's a lot of overlap by those who download it and those who purchase it legitimately for a number of reasons. But anywho, a new report out of the UK once again, goes to that narrative that pirates are exclusively looking to obtain free stuff. And according to a paywalled survey of about 1,000 UK residents by anti-piracy outfit Muso, they first spotted by Torrent Freak, 60% of those surveyed admitted that they had illegally streamed or downloaded music, film, or TV shows sometime in the past. Surprised that, stream froze. That's not good. Let's see. Everything running just fine. Yeah, no drop frames. I'm just going to have to assume that it's on their end. Let's see. All right, so anywho, but the study also showed that 83% of those questioned try to find the content they're looking for through above board services, and that before trying anything else. And that while the study found that 86% of the survey takers subscribe to a streaming service like Netflix, that total jumped to 91% among those that admitted to privacy or to piracy. And that the survey found that the top reason that users pirate is that the content that they're looking for wasn't legally available, was too cumbersome to access, or wasn't affordable. And, that is the reason I hear so many people who actually do pirate, why they do it, is that, hey, I really want to watch XYZ, but so-and-so streaming service that used to have it no longer carries it. The DVD box set is way too much, and and the only way to access it is now through this third-party service that I really don't ever use. It's a number of different factors. And sometimes, the content is available only through your cable provider, and sometimes you don't even have a cable service. There's a number of reasons, and many of them are just, if it was easy to access and it was affordable, you'd probably see a lot more people buying these things instead of pirating them. Hey, that's why anything that's on Netflix, we see a massive decrease in the amount of pirated content when it's available through a streaming service. So they said that a study conducted last year by Launch Leap found that while more than half of millennials view illegal live streams of content, they said that the lion's share would prefer accessing the content via legit services if it was legally available. The takeaway is that, folks, if you want your content to stop being stolen, make it available, make it affordable, and just give it to them. At some rate, give it to them for a good price, and they will pay for it. Just like Computer America. Hey, our podcast, always free, always will be, and the live radio show always will be to our listeners as well. And we thank you so much for tuning in, and we thank you for checking us out. So, folks, until next time, until tomorrow, Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern, be sure to check us out as we have on the program. Let me get this straight. Let's see. According to the chat room, Ralph Bond. That's right. He is our science and tech trends correspondent, and always a lot of uplifting stories. It's going to be a great show. Be sure to tune in. And everyone, hey, Tomorrow's Friday. You did it. You made it. Good job. Proud of all of you. And until next time, bye-bye.